बम डिफ्यूज़ करने में एक ही गलती होती है, वो अव्वल भी होती है और आखिर भी होती है। एक, दो, तीन।
Asad, thank you so much for joining us. You've got a film in this year's festival, Armed with Faith. Can you tell us a bit about your film?
Yeah, so this is actually my first film as a director that I'm co-directing with Geeta Ganbir. And my film's about a group of bomb technicians in Peshawar, in KPK, Pakistan. KPK is the northwestern province that borders Afghanistan, and which has been basically a battleground for Pakistani forces and civilian forces versus Taliban and Al-Qaeda and now ISIS. And my film follows these two bomb technicians and the commander at the squad, and basically goes into their lives to see. It's primarily a very character-driven film where, like, I spent 3 years with these characters, and there's, they all go through a transformation in their life over that period of time, which is basically why I was able to finish this film, is because the characters are very compelling, and yeah, that's what it is about.
Interesting. I'd love to talk about the name, because Armed with Faith, in the news we hear often about religious extremists as the ones that cause, terrorist attacks, but in this case, your characters are armed with faith to step in and really save lives. Where did you come up with that name, and what was the connotation there?
Actually, the name comes from this line where one of the characters in the film says that that they're working with very, very minimal resources. And if you watch the film, you'll realize that most of these technicians don't even wear bomb suits when they're going out diffusing bombs, because I was there 3 years, not just filming with them diffusing bombs, but also with their families to actually get an idea of perspective of how not just them coping up with the kind of work they do, but also how do families cope up with that, with the idea that their family member, their husbands, sons, brothers are actually working in a life-death situation before coming back home each time. So again, there was a lot of faith. Faith has a very, very strong part to play in Pakistan. And when I say faith, I don't mean any one particular religion. It's just to sort of submit yourself to something which is higher than your body. But of course, if you look at the name, it kind of plays on both sides, because there is a part where the technicians, they defuse suicide bombers, and that is something which happens a lot. And a lot of these suicide bombers are sold the idea of faith. I was working in the tribe in Swat in 2009-10 when I went, and this was my early days in the career as a filmmaker or a cinematographer, and I went into this school which was a suicide bombing training camp, and I saw these images on the wall, and those images were of basically they were amateur paintings of a beautiful mountain, beautiful valley and stuff, and that was the heaven that was sold to them, to these little boys. It kind of reminded me of when I used to go to the mosque as a kid. This is around the time 9/11 happened. In Karachi, I grew up in a smaller town, which is 2 hours outside of Karachi, but the neighborhood that I used to come to, where my grandmother lived, there was a mosque, and I used to go there because, if you're a good boy, you go to the mosque, you pray as much as you can, and you stay steadfast to religion. But obviously, over there, when you go, there were people who were preaching out of jihadi literature, which got printed not very long ago. It was during the whole Russian invasion, and the Mujahideen, in order for them to be created and stuff. And this is part of history that we don't know, but I, living through all of that, always had these questions, and that was the idea that was sold to me also as a kid. And of course, it's a powerful idea, and I was 10, 12 years old at that time, and fascinated by the stories that were told. Although now that I look back and I look at them, they were completely untrue. It was all made up. It was all made up for a specific time, for a specific purpose. But once it was done, nothing was done to undo that. And so it sort of translated, and it is what has created, especially I can say for Pakistan, that ever since 9/11, we've lost a lot more people than, a lot of different countries in 15 years. And civilian lives, innocent civilian lives, because of the tension and the religious divide, the extremism, all of that, and also the war in Afghanistan, which is the primary reason. And then, you have drone strikes and all of that. So these are the kind of issues that, I as a filmmaker want to tackle, and I felt like this would be a good starting point, this film. And again, coming back to the whole faith thing, faith is a very, very strong component in the lives of these technicians that I work with. But again, like they know that this work is far more than like the importance of it is far more religious. It's humanity is what they're working for, and they're very, very aware of that.
Well, with Armed with Faith, what are you hoping to change about the narrative in the Middle East?
You see, like I didn't think of changing any narrative before I started making this film. All I wanted to do was show how I personally, as Pakistani, I was 15 years old when 9/11 happened, and the Pakistan I remember before that versus what happened after is completely different. Like I saw the society degrading over a period of time. Like, you know, there were no bombs or suicide attacks and stuff, and 2002 onwards, all of this started. It came to a point where it was like at the all-time high. And we've survived all of that. Like people of Pakistan, they're resilient, despite of like, you know, global politics and, you know, the intelligence agencies and however they work or they don't work together. People of Pakistan, like they've survived. And this, for me, this is the story. This is that story of survival, of people who didn't actively put themselves into war. War came to them, right? Obviously, like, so this is for me, it's a case study for societies that are very eager on going to war at the first notion of like how to, you know, get your troops on the ground without talking to people and getting everyone on board and understanding the intricacies of a certain society, of what it's made of and how it's going to tarnish that over the course of history. Because what happens when you're at war, what I've realized is you stop evolving as a society. You stop evolving, your art dies, everything, and I've seen that happen. Right? It was very, very hard for not just for me, but many other filmmakers to go out and make films because, you know, the society was at an all-time decay, and people lost their motivation to live. And I feel like it's very important to document that. And that is, for me, it's more about documenting our lives, our history, when it's like at its all-time worst. And nothing could be worse than war.
Asad, thank you so much for bringing your message and your film to VIFF this year. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time in Vancouver.
Thank you very much. And I'm very thankful to VIFF for selecting this film.